The guard hit the floor before he could finish his sentence. A gun barrel pressed into his neck, another voice barking orders through a rubber mask. And the vault room exploded into motion. Canvas money bags slammed onto carts. Footsteps echoed. Somewhere behind those walls sat nearly $3 million in cash and money orders, and in this moment, it was all slipping away. Before I tell you how they got inside, I need to ask you something real quick. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments. And if you love dark, true scam stories where one mistake can end everything, subscribe to ScamSphere now, because missing the next detail might be worse than pulling the wrong trigger. Boston, January 17, 1950. The kind of cold that bites through wool coats and good intentions. The Brink's building on Prince Street looked boring, predictable, safe. That was the problem. Brink's was trusted. Brink's was routine. Brink's was arrogant enough to believe nobody would ever touch it. Inside, guards followed schedules so rigid you could set your watch by them. Outside, a group of men had already done exactly that. The robbery took 26 minutes, not 27, not 25. 26 minutes of terrifying efficiency that would go down as the largest cash robbery in American history at the time. $2.775 million, including cash, checks, and money orders. Adjusted for inflation today, that number punches well past $30 million, and not a single alarm was triggered. The men wore navy peacoats, chauffeur caps, and grotesque Halloween masks. One looked like a grinning clown. Another had painted eyebrows that permanently arched in mock surprise. The absurdity of those faces made the fear worse. Guards were bound with twine and tape, their mouths gagged, their wrists cinched tight. One robber calmly told them, "Do not move for 15 minutes. Not shouted, not threatened. .com, like a dentist explaining a cavity. Here's the part most people miss. This robbery was not rushed, it was rehearsed. Months earlier, the crew had already tested the building. They had watched shift changes, memorized guard habits, tracked delivery schedules. They knew which guards talked too much and which ones counted steps. They knew the sound the vault made when it opened. They knew the smell of the room. And yes, there was a mastermind. Two of them, actually. Anthony Pino and Joseph Big Joe McGinnis. Career criminals with something rare: patience. These were not smash-and-grab amateurs. These were men who believed the perfect crime was one nobody noticed until it was already over. The plan was brutally simple. Enter during closing operations. Neutralize the guards, empty the vault, leave quietly. But simplicity hides danger. One error meant alarms. One scream meant police. One dropped bag meant headlines for the wrong reason. And yet, everything worked. They moved cash first, then checks, then money orders. The weight alone was insane. Over 1,200 pounds of money. Carts rolled, bags stacked. Time ticked. The guards lay helpless, listening to the sound of their careers collapsing. When the robbers exited, they did not run. They walked. The door closed. The building went silent. Boston did not know yet, but history had just been rewritten. By morning, newspapers screamed. Police panicked. Brink-S executives stared at empty vaults with the 1,000-yard stare of people realizing they trusted routine too much. The FBI was called immediately. This was federal now. And the pressure was nuclear. Here is the irony. There were suspects immediately. Names floated, faces matched profiles, but evidence. Nothing. No fingerprints. No witnesses. No usable descriptions. The masks did their job too well. The crew had even wiped surfaces down. They left behind nothing except tied-up guards and a gaping hole where money used to live. Weeks passed, then months, then years. The robbers followed a rule that would save them for a terrifyingly long time. Do not spend the money. At least, not fast. No flashy cars, no sudden houses, no drunken confessions. One man reportedly bought a modest ring. Another paid off a bill. That was it. Discipline was everything. The FBI, meanwhile, grew desperate. Surveillance lists expanded. Informants were squeezed. Trash was searched. Phones were tapped. Agents tracked associates, girlfriends, bartenders, cousins. Entire neighborhoods felt watched. Nothing broke. But time was the enemy on both sides. The statute of limitations for robbery was 6 years. When that clock ran out, the crime would legally evaporate. No charges, no justice. The greatest robbery in American history would simply age out. Inside the crew, cracks formed. Paranoia bloomed. Men argued. Some wanted to run. Others wanted to spend. One wanted out completely. Silence became heavy. Every knock sounded like the end. And somewhere in all of this, one tiny detail, one human mistake was waiting to surface. But nobody knew that yet. By 1951, the Brink's robbery had become a wound that refused to heal. The money was gone, the guards were alive, and the criminals had vanished into ordinary life. For the FBI, this was unbearable. The Bureau had been embarrassed publicly, quietly mocked by criminals, and pressured relentlessly by Brink's executives who demanded answers. Each passing month made the case colder, but also more dangerous, because everyone involved knew the clock was ticking toward the statute of limitations. The FBI assigned its most obsessive agents to the case. Every associate of every known suspect was cataloged. Trash was collected. Phone lines were monitored. Apartment buildings were watched from parked cars with engines off and windows cracked in the freezing Boston nights. Agents memorized routines just like the robbers had. The irony was painful. The hunters were now copying the hunted. Meanwhile, the robbers lived under self-imposed house arrest. The money, nearly untouched, sat hidden in walls, under floorboards. Wrapped in oilcloth, buried in metal containers. Spending even a small amount felt dangerous. One man bought furniture slowly, cash only. Another paid off debts in careful increments. Nobody dared to celebrate. The silence was suffocating. Victory felt temporary, like standing on thin ice. The mastermind, Anthony Pino, understood something crucial. The robbery was only half the job. The rest was survival. He enforced rules like commandments. No talking, no boasting, no drunken stories, no sudden lifestyle changes. He believed time itself was the greatest accomplice. If they could simply outlast the investigation, they would win without ever touching a weapon again. But criminals are still human, and humans rot from the inside when forced to wait. Tension grew. Arguments erupted over money distribution. Accusations surfaced. Who deserved more? Who had taken risks? Who might crack first? Trust decayed slowly, invisibly, until it poisoned everything. Joseph McGinnis became the weak point. He was restless, resentful, and increasingly reckless. He felt underpaid. He drank more. He talked longer. He believed the FBI had failed and moved on. Worse, he believed loyalty was optional once fear faded. That belief would cost everyone. In late 1954, McGinnis confided fragments of the story to an associate. Not a direct confession, just enough detail to feel powerful. Names were hinted, roles implied. The associate listened quietly and remembered everything. That associate later talked to another man, who talked to another, until the fragments reached ears trained to recognize danger. The FBI noticed a pattern. Conversations overlapped, names repeated. Surveillance intensified around McGinnis and his circle. Agents followed him to bars, laundromats, and family gatherings. They listened without interrupting. They waited for certainty. The Bureau could not afford another embarrassment. By 1955, pressure was unbearable on both sides. The FBI knew something was there, but needed proof. The robbers knew they were being watched, but could not tell how closely. Every footstep behind them sounded suspicious. Every phone call felt recorded. The money remained hidden, mocking them. The statute of limitations loomed like an execution date: 6 years. That was all the law allowed. After that, the robbery would legally cease to exist. No charges, no convictions. Freedom by expiration. The criminals counted days. The FBI counted minutes. Then, everything accelerated. In January 1956, just days before the deadline, the FBI moved. Arrests were swift and surgical. Doors were knocked down. Suspects were separated and interrogated immediately. Pino was arrested first, calm but pale. McGinnis followed, angry and defiant. Others were taken within hours. The silence that had protected them for years shattered in a single morning. Interrogations were relentless. Evidence was finally sufficient. Surveillance logs, informant testimony, financial inconsistencies, connections that no longer looked coincidental. Faced with decades in prison, some men talked. Others stared at walls. One cried, the perfect crime had finally cracked under its own weight. The hidden money was recovered almost entirely. Agents pulled bundles from ceilings, basements, and backyard graves. The bills were brittle. Ink had faded. Newspapers used for wrapping referenced presidents long out of office. The fortune looked less glamorous than anyone imagined. It smelled like dust and regret. The trial exposed everything: planning meetings, surveillance routines, the masks, the guards. The precise 26 minutes that changed history. Newspapers devoured every detail. The same public that once mocked the FBI now watched silently as sentences were handed down. Anthony Pino received life imprisonment. McGinnis was sentenced to life as well. Others received lengthy terms. Some would die behind bars. None would ever enjoy the money they stole. The victory they guarded for 6 years evaporated in weeks. Brinks rewrote its security policies overnight. Guard routines were randomized. Surveillance multiplied. Trust was replaced with redundancy. The robbery reshaped armored transport security across America. Every future protocol traced its roots back to that frozen Boston night. The greatest irony remained undeniable. The robbery itself was flawless. No alarms, no violence, no mistakes. It only failed because humans cannot stay silent forever. Time does not forgive weakness, it magnifies it. If you think this scam was thrilling, wait until you hear about the next. Once subscribe to ScamSphere, because the next story proves that some crimes do not need guns to destroy lives, only patience and one fatal mistake.